Welcome back everyone, it is Mike from ManaHoarders. In this video we are bringing you a commander deck tech for a 5-color commander, Kenrith the Returned King. You can cast Kenrith for 4 and a white. He has 5 abilities. The first gives all creatures trample and haste until end of turn. The second puts a 1/1 counter on target creature. The third, target player gains 5 life. The fourth ability, target player draws a card. And the fifth ability, put target creature from a graveyard onto the battlefield under its owner's control. Kenrith is a very versatile commander, giving you many ways to build around him, and has been one of the most popular ever since he came out during Throne of Eldraine. Now before we dive into the deck, let's go over a few key points. First up, the final price for this build came in at $163.72. This does include the price of our commander and all of our lands. Now do bear in mind some of these prices will vary greatly depending on the quality of the cards you purchase, the vendor you use, and a variety of other factors. Now in terms of power level, I rate this build around a 4 or 5 out of 10 on the power scale. Now that is not to say that Kenrith is a weak commander by any means, but for this specific build I was trying something that was very different and perhaps not optimal in terms of a commander game. So if you're looking for something that's a little bit more on the fun and experimental side, this is a great place to start. For a bit more context on my inspiration for this build, we will look to the recent D&D Forgotten Realms release. In the Gruul Commander Precon, one of the legendary creatures was Wolfgar of Icewind Dale. His ability reads, if a creature you control attacking would cause a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Now we did make a commander deck tech for Wolfgar, so feel free to check that out after you're finished watching this one. Now as I mentioned there, I'll reiterate here, there are other creatures in Magic's history that specifically allow permanents we control to trigger an additional time. That is effectively the backbone for what this deck is. We included 5 specific creatures that allow us to double up our triggers. The Ancient Green Warden will double up any of our permanents that trigger when a land enters. Teysa Karlov gives us double death triggers. Veyran, Voice of Duality, allows us to double up any time we cast an instant or sorcery. Wolfgar, of course, lets our permanents trigger twice if we attack. And Yarok the Desecrated will allow our permanents to trigger twice whenever something enters the battlefield. That means in the ideal scenario, anytime we really do anything, we should be getting double value for everything. When we play land, when we cast spells, when creatures enter, when they die, and when we attack. So as many of you can imagine, this is quite a chaotic build, so again, a little bit lower on the power scale, but if it can go off, I'm sure it will be very fun. Now let's go ahead and dive into the deck. First up are our artifacts. Carnage Altar, we can pay 3, sacrifice a creature, and draw a card. Chromatic Lantern allows lands we control to tap for 1 mana of any color. Panharmonicon, if an artifact or creature entering the battlefield caused a triggered ability of a permanent we control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. And Sword of the Animist, the equipped creature gets +1/+1, and whenever the equipped creature attacks, we can search our library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle our library. Moving on to our creatures, we have Biomancer's Familiar and Zerda the Dawnwaker. We literally included them to make Kenrith's abilities cost a little bit cheaper. Now our next creatures I have broken up depending on which general you'll be gaining the most benefit from. So this first group is pertaining specifically to the Ancient Green Warden. Scoot Swarm, whenever a land enters we create a 1/1 green insect creature token, but if we have 6 or more lands we get a copy of Scoot Swarm instead. Spore Mound, every time we play a land we get a Saproling. Katiova Benthic Druid, whenever we play a land we gain a life and draw a card. And Tireless Provisioner, whenever we play a land we get a food token or a treasure token. Next up we have our followers of Teysa Karlov. Cruel Celebrant, whenever Cruel Celebrant or another creature or planeswalker we control dies, each opponent loses 1 and we gain 1. Nested Shambler, whenever it dies we get X tapped 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens where X is the Shambler's power. Primal Druid, whenever it dies we can search our library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped and shuffle. Shambling Ghast, whenever it dies we can give target creature -1/-1 or create a treasure. And Zulaport Cutthroat, whenever Zulaport or another creature we control dies, each opponent loses 1 and we gain 1. For the creatures in the camp of Veyran, Voice of Duality, Archmage Emeritus, whenever we cast or copy an instant or sorcery we can draw a card. Dika Fractal Theorist will allow us to create fractal tokens. Extus Auric Overlord will allow us to get non-legendary creatures back from our graveyard to our hand. Sedgemoor Witch will allow us to create pest tokens. And Stormkiln Artist will pump out treasures, which are very helpful in a 5-color build. For those who are a bit more combat prone following Wolfgar, we have Captain Lannery Storm. Whenever she attacks we can create a treasure token. Delina Wild Mage, whenever she attacks we can roll a die and create tokens of creatures we control that are attacking. Atali Primal Storm, whenever it attacks we exile a top card of each player's library and we can cast those cards. And Rada Erdic Held, whenever she attacks we can add 2 red mana. And last but not least is the camp of Yarok the Desecrated, one commander I'm actually quite looking forward to building myself. For his camp we have Elvish Visionary, whenever it enters we can draw. Fibblethip does much the same. Wall of Blossoms, whenever it enters the battlefield we can draw a card, and Wall of Omens does that as well. And Wood Elves. Whenever it enters the battlefield, we can search our library for a forest card, put that card into play, and then shuffle. Moving on to our enchantments, we have Beastmaster Ascension. Whenever a creature we control attacks, it gets a quest counter, and as long as it has 7 more quest counters, creatures we control get +5/+5. Felidar Retreat. Whenever a land enters the battlefield, we can create a 2/2 cat beast creature token, or put a +1/+1 counter on each creature we control and they gain vigilance. Impact Tremors. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, each opponent takes 1. Retreat to Emiria. Whenever a land enters, we can create a 1/1 white core ally creature token, or give our creatures +1/+1 until end of turn. Wilderness Reclamation. At the beginning of our end step, we can untap all lands we control. And just in case you thought the value train was coming to an end, we included some shrines with Sanctum of All, which allows our shrines to double up their value. We included Sanctum of Calm Waters, Sanctum of Fruitful Harvest, Sanctum of Shattered Heights, Sanctum of Stone Fangs, and Sanctum of Tranquil Light. Moving on to our instance, Brainstorm allows us to draw 3 cards and then put 2 cards from our hand on top of our library. Death Denied, we can return X target creature cards from our graveyard to our hand. Death Wind, target creature gets -X/-X until end of turn. Death Sprout, we can destroy target creature, then search our library for a basic, put it on the battlefield tapped, and shuffle. Fog prevents all combat damage that will be dealt this turn. Frantic Search, we can draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards, and untap up to 3 lands. Growth Spiral, we will draw a card, and we can play an additional land. Opt, we can scry 1 and then draw 1. Return of the Wild Speaker, we can choose 1, draw cards equal to the greatest power among non-human creatures we control, or non-human creatures we control get +3/+3. In Roiling Regrowth, we will sacrifice a land, search our library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, and shuffle. For our sorceries, Cleansing Nova can destroy all creatures or destroy all artifacts and enchantments. Cultivate, we can search our library for up to 2 basics, reveal those cards, put 1 into our hand and 1 onto the battlefield tapped. Fireball deals X damage divided evenly, rounded down among any number of target creatures and or players. Kodama's Reach, we can search our library for up to 2 basics, reveal those, put 1 onto the field and 1 into our hand. Mind Spring, we can draw X cards. Open into Wonder, X target creatures can't be blocked this turn, and whenever they deal combat damage, we can draw. Reprocess, we can sacrifice any number of artifacts, creatures, or lands and draw that many cards. Sign in Blood, target player draws 2 and loses 2. And Tormenting Voice is an additional cost we will discard a card to draw 2 cards. And last but not least is our mana base. We do have a few dual lands in our deck to help with some of the mana fixing since we are running a 5-color deck. Dark Moss Bridge, Evolving Wilds, Razortide Bridge, Slagwoods Bridge, Tanglepool Bridge, Terramorphic Expanse, Thornlight Bridge, and for our basic lands we have 7 forests, 6 islands, and 5 mountains, plains, and swamps. And just like that, we reached the end of this Commander deck tech for Kenrith, the Returned King. I hope you enjoyed this video and it gave you some ideas about the many different ways to build around this very versatile, very fun commander. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, tell your friends about us, and leave a comment down below. Let us know what commanders you would like to see us build around in the future. We really appreciate all of your support.